dispense. The clothes, too, had changed radically. The 1940s were somber, durable, military, boxy. The 1950s, frothy, strapless, bouffant, pastel, beflowered. Femininity was lauded. The cars had gone from the dark, enclosed sedans of the war years to chrome-trimmed convertibles in flamboyant colors. Transistor radios were among us. Drive-in theaters popped up. Plastics arrived. Then, in 1960, there was another change. Among the earnest young, folk songs replaced formal dances. In the tiny artistic circles that then existed in Toronto coffee houses, inclined as they were to French existentialism rather than beatniks, black turtlenecks and equally black eyeliner were in vogue. Still, the early 1960s were the 1950s in essence. The Cold War was on. Kennedy had not yet been assassinated. There was no birth control pill generally available. There were no miniskirts, though there had just been short shorts. There were no hippies. There was no second-wave women's movement. It was in this period that I wrote my first book reviews, my first collection of poems, my first novel, still in a drawer happily, and my first published novel, The Edible Woman. By the time it came out, in 1969, the world it describes was already gone. The later 1960s brought uproar. The big civil rights marches in the United States, the anti-Vietnam War protests, the hundreds of thousands of American draft dodgers pouring into Canada. I myself was constantly in transit. For some of these years, I was a graduate student in Cambridge, Massachusetts. For others, I held minor academic positions in such places as Montreal and Edmonton. I moved 16 or 17 times. This period saw the formation of a number of new publishing ventures in Canada, many of them connected with the country's post-colonial struggle to figure itself out. My involvement with one of them gave rise to much essay writing, both at the time and later. Then came the 1970s, the ferment of the second-wave women's movement, followed by reaction and burnout toward the end. In Canada, Quebec separatism occupied the center of the political stage. This period saw the arrival of several authoritarian regimes, Pinochet in Chile and the Argentinian junta with their murders and disappearances, the Pol Pot regime in Cambodia with its wholesale slaughters. Some were right, some were left, but no ideology, it was clear, had a monopoly on atrocities. I continued to write book reviews as well as the novels, stories, and poems I felt were my real work, but I also branched out into articles and speeches. Quite a few of these were about subjects that still occupy my shrinking brain: women's issues, writing and writers, human rights. I was now a member of Amnesty International, which worked to free prisoners of conscience, largely through letter-writing campaigns. By 1972, I had ceased to have academic jobs and had gone freelance, so I was taking any paid work I could pick up. We were living on a farm and had a small child, as well as a small budget. We were not poor, though one visitor told people we had nothing but a goat. No goats, in reality. They were sheep. But we were not rolling in cash. We grew a lot of vegetables and kept chickens and other non-human residents. This mini agribiz took time and also lost money, so if I could make a bit of cash from writing rather than egg sales, all to the good. The 1980s began with our move from the farm to Toronto, for school reasons among others, the election of Ronald Reagan in the United States, and the rise of the religious right. In 1981, I began thinking about The Handmaid's Tale, though I put off writing it until 1984 because the concept seemed too far-fetched. My output